Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of West Explains Best. Today, we're going to be doing a Kuta software worksheet tutorial on area and perimeter. Okay, let's go ahead and jump right into this. Area, what is area? Area is we're talking about two-dimensional space, 2D space. And it's going to be in square units because we're multiplying the units times each other. In order to get our unit value. Now, that's why you'll see things in square miles, square meters, square feet when you're talking about houses. So that's why it's in square units. Make sure you do that so you're not confused with perimeter. Now, perimeter is we're talking about the distance around something. So we're talking about one dimension. So we're not talking about space. We're talking about the distance around something. So distance around a shape, and it's just going to be in units, not square units. Okay, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Since it's asking for the perimeter in 2 through 6, 9, 11, very odd with those ones. And by the way, you can't do it for number 7, the perimeter at least. So whoever wrote this kind of screwed up a little bit. But anyway, we have 2. We'll go ahead and start with that. Now we're trying to find area. Area for a rectangle or a square is just the length times the width. So we have the length here, the width. It doesn't matter which one you call which because we're just multiplying. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to substitute the values that we know. If we called the length 11.1, we're just going to type in 11.1 times 7.9. Okay, and keep in mind that right now we have kilometers for the units. That's the distance of each one of these lengths. So we get area equals 87.69, but what are the units? Kilometers squared. Okay, so that's our area. Now, how do we find perimeter? So, funny how I did perimeter. Let me change the color here. Kind of got it backwards with my color scheme. Style, this was in green. We'll take it dark green. I like that better. Okay, and then we'll go to perimeter in dark purple. Okay, so perimeter, essentially what we're doing with perimeter is we're adding up all the outside edges. That's what you can do with any shape. What you'll notice with rectangles in particular is that we have 2 lengths because they're the same length across from each other because it's a type of parallelogram. So essentially what we can do is multiply 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Okay, so 2 times the length is 2 times 11.1 plus 2 times 7.9. Again, if you just go 7.9 plus 7.9 plus 11.1 plus 11.1, you'll be good with that also. Okay, so I get 22.2 when I do that, and then I get 15.8. So my perimeter, once I add these two, it should be a nice round number here. I get 38. And now what are my units? Just kilometers. Notice the difference here. I'm talking about a distance, not an area. Area, we're talking about all the space inside the shape. Perimeter, we're talking about the distance around a shape. Okay, think about fence versus the grass. So this one's like the fence. This one is like the grass, if you want to think of it that way. Okay, let's jump ahead. 4 is another rectangle. Let's go to, I suppose, number 6. This one is parallelogram. So with a parallelogram, it's the same formula as, almost the same formula as a rectangle. We're going to have the base times the height. Still multiplying 2 distances, but now we need to identify which those are. So here we have the base and the height. So this one's our height. Are always perpendicular. So the base needs to be perpendicular to the height. That's very important. Okay, so you don't want to do 12 times 9.9. That's not going to help you. You want to do 12 times 7. So our base we're calling 12. Our height is perpendicular to that, so that's 7. So area equals 12 times 7. And we're going to get 84. What are the units? Kilometers squared. That is our area. Again, area is that space inside. Now we're going to do perimeter. Perimeter is pretty easy with this one. It's very similar to the rectangle. We're just going to add up all the outside edges, and since that's 9.9, we can all write in 9.9 over here since it's a parallelogram. So we're just going to do 12 times 2. We'll just do 12 plus 9.9 times 2, or plus 9.9. I mean, basically the same thing. So you can do it either way, plus 24. And we get 43.8. Don't forget the units. we get kilometers, not squared, okay? Because we're talking about the distance around. Oops, I thought I changed it to green. Whatever, you guys get the point. Okay, let's go to a triangle example. He said 9 and 11. So let's go ahead and jump to 9. Okay, so the area of a triangle is 1/2 the base times the height. So it's kind of like a parallelogram or a rectangle in that we multiply the two dimensions, but the base and the height need to be perpendicular to each other. Very important feature there. So here we'll call this our base. And why are we calling that our base? Because our height is perpendicular to that. So we're going to call this our height, and we're going to call this our base. So we have area. Now, if you want to write it base times height divided by 2, it's the same thing. I'm not sure which way you've seen it in the past, but I just like putting 1/2 in front. Our base, we're calling 11. Our height, we're calling 9.4. Okay, as indicated here, it has to be perpendicular. And we can just go ahead and multiply across. 9.4 divided by 2 times 11. Now you're like, whoa, 9.4 divided by 2? I mean, since it's the commutative property, you can just kind of multiply in any order you want. I just transferred 1/2 to 0.5, or dividing by 2, however you want to think of it. Essentially, you're going to get the same thing, which is 51.7. And then the units is kilometers. We're dealing with lots of kilometers here. Lots of big areas squared. So here's our area. Perimeter for triangles is, there's no set formula because each triangle is different. So our perimeter is just going to be adding up all the sides. So we have 10 plus 11 plus 12. So that's what, 21, 33. So we have 33 and then kilometers. That's our units. Okay. And that's a good sampling of the top portion. You should be fine with these ones as well. It's just all the same shape. Let's get into circles. So circles are a little bit different. If we're talking about the perimeter with circles, it's the same thing as circumference. Circumference is the distance around a circle, and circumference is equal to 2 times pi times r. Now, what is r? Well, we need to talk about two different parts of a triangle. R is the radius of a triangle, and there's also something called d, which is the diameter of a triangle. Now, the diameter of a triangle is a line that goes through the middle and touches both edges of the circle. A radius is half the diameter. So a radius goes from the center of the circle and then to the edge, to the circumference of the circle. So diameter is equal to 2 times the radius. Okay, that's just something to keep in mind. So for our formula, we're talking about 2 times pi times the radius. Another way to write this is c equals diameter times pi. But I prefer this one. And the reason why I prefer this one is because our area formula equals pi r squared. Notice how we're using r and we're not using the diameter for that. So I like everything in terms of the radius. It makes it easier. Also keep in mind that we're squaring the r. We're not squaring the result. A lot of people will do this. They'll multiply pi times r first and then square it. Do not do that. You want to square the r first and then multiply by pi. So let's just do one of these. We'll go ahead and do, I guess, 24. So 24, we're given the diameter, as you can tell. Okay, that's the diameter. The first thing we should probably find is the radius. We want r, and r is going to be half of that. So we have to do 10.8 divided by 2 is 5.4. Okay, so now we need to plug this into both our formulas. So we're going to say circumference equals 2 pi times 5.4. So that's going to be 10.8 pi. Now, you're depending on your teacher, you might leave it in terms of pi, but since it's already in decimal form, I would go ahead and just multiply this by pi. So I'm going to go ahead and use my calculator function of pi, and I get 33.93. And then what are my units? Since it's circumference, this is the distance around the circle. Okay, and so that's miles. Circumference equals, or the perimeter equals 33.93 miles. Now, what about my area? Well, area, we already know that we're going to be using pi r squared. Well, I got my colors backwards again. What do you know? Area equals pi r squared. My radius is 5.4, so I'm going to square that first. Do that first. So I get 29.16 times pi equals the area. Since it's already in decimal form, I'm going to go ahead and multiply this out. Depending on your teacher, you may leave it as 29.16 pi units squared or miles squared. But I'm going to go ahead and multiply that out times pi, and I get 91.61 miles squared units. And that would be all the space inside the area, the two-dimensional space inside that circle. Okay, so that's this worksheet. That's basic area and perimeter. Hope you found this helpful. Thank you so much for watching.